Welcome to the Overanalyzers, a weekly podcast where we talk about how to learn, improve, and achieve our ambitious goals. I'm Dan, I'm building an art empire, and Mike is fixing software. Today is June 5th, July 5th. It's the day after the 4th of July, 2026. How are you, Mike?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. It's been a little while since we've talked. I have decided I will never again say see you next week because every time I do, we disappear for a month for some reason.
I probably shouldn't open the show with a weekly podcast, but
We aspire to be a weekly
we're talking
podcast.
about what we aspired to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, okay, so a couple things have happened since we last talked. Actually, probably tons of things have happened. I had my first show, like art market thing,
Right.
which was pretty cool. And we can maybe talk about that a bit later. But what I'm most interested to hear about is something you told me a few weeks ago. And I think it's time you share that with the listeners.
Fine. I had a bit of an epiphany about a month ago or so, and I kind of sat on it for a while, and then I decided to tell you, which is the same thing as writing it in blood because you never let things go. I keep thinking about what I've been working on. I've been trying to build a certain type of software that approaches problems in a certain way. It's local first, distributed type stuff. I keep I keep coming back to this problem that is it increasingly feels like I am constructing a tree in the woods. And if I can't connect with people and I can't say, look, here's this thing and it's really important and here's why it's important, and you gotta give me a minute to explain it because it's a little bit hard to understand at first, but it's a big deal. I have to have an audience. I have to have people who are willing to listen and who are interested in that and able to understand for that to ever make any sense, because it doesn't matter if I build something and only I use it. What does that change? Ultimately, I need an audience. And I have been in my head, I knew that. That's been a solid observation for a long time, but I decided that I don't need to put that much effort into it. The blog will do that for me. I can write some articles occasionally, and that will be where I connect with my audience. But in a sober moment of reflection, I have had to come to terms with that. That is not enough. And the reason is that the internet, the open internet, is dead. It is, there's nothing left. It's gone. I was seeing an article just today about how some of the biggest blogs in recent years have dried up to almost nothing. I mean, there just isn't anything anymore. And I experienced this. I did as good as I could have on the blog. I had one article that hit #1 on Hacker News. That was my target audience. That was as achieved as it could have been. And there was a lot of conversation, a lot of interest, and virtually no stickiness. There was no audience that came with that. People just read articles and they kind of move on. I had another one that did not that well, but very well. And same thing, just people read it, they might discuss it, but then they move on to the next thing. And that makes sense. That's how I interact with articles. I don't necessarily connect deeply with bloggers. Anyhow, it occurred to me that the blog simply wasn't it. And putting more and more effort into that was probably not going to genuinely achieve the goals that I had. So it one night it came to me in this fever dream, and I'm sounding really silly, but actually this happened. I went to go to sleep and my mind just started winding up on this idea of starting a new YouTube channel. And I started thinking through what I would say and what I wanted to say and how what that would even look like. And it just spun into this obsession. And I swear I was up virtually the entire night, unable to sleep, just with this weird thing in my head that I couldn't let go of. And I woke up the next morning very late and thinking, what the hell was that? Did I get sick? Did something what caused that weird episode of obsessive can't let this go? And I at first just brushed it off, thinking whatever, weird night. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what, maybe there was something there. Maybe there is something in my head that is wanting my attention, and maybe I need to give it a little bit more energy. And that's eventually what I wound up with was I need to go back to YouTube and try and connect with people like this in a camera as a person talking to other people. And I decided to commit to that. So that is what I've been trying to gear up for.
But this will be okay. So just to recap,
Yeah.
because it's been so long
Mhm.
since you were a YouTuber. You had a quite successful YouTube run of 12 years or however long you were on there. How long? I know we went through the whole thing, but
I don't think it was that long. It has some starts and stops, but I think I was pretty committed to it for 4 or 5 years,
about
maybe.
10,
I don't. There might have been some kind of
longer than that.
tail end. I don't know. It was
Yeah, yeah.
5 to 10, I guess, somewhere in that order.
Okay, well, you were doing music
Yeah.
tutorials and teaching music, and it was strictly music, right? You never branched out from, yeah. So you had a music channel. This is totally different,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, that was
What do you plan on getting into with this?
well, that was part of the hesitance there. I kept thinking, do I try and go back to doing music theory? Do I want to do that? Does it even make any sense anymore? I actually did a couple of videos a few years ago that were in that vein. I kind of cheated because I was doing more physics lectures that were music oriented. But I did that and they did fine. It got some viewership, but I didn't feel that great about it. And just looking at that compared to what else is on YouTube now, I just felt like I was a bit of a dinosaur or thinking in a very old school way. So I had to kind of face down that decision and I decided I'm not I'm not teaching music anymore. I'm not in it in the way that I was. And going back to that would feel a little bit inauthentic. I think it would be me just trying to get viewership and attention. And it doesn't even fit with my goals of trying to build novel things. So it's going to be a whole fresh start. I think what I want to do is a more builder creator oriented channel where I set out to craft something, do some physical projects, things that I'm interested in, but then also software projects and things like that. But my goal is to make it be more of the first person perspective, chronological from start to finish. You go through the journey of me trying to complete something. It's not a retrospective of, hey, I built this thing. Here's the show and tell. Here's the story, narrated past tense with a bunch of B-roll. I want it to be more in it, and I want to try and hit these educational beats where there's some struggle and build and then some problem that I genuinely have a hard time with, and I want to try and work in an understanding and explanation of what that is. So it is a partly educational thing, but not it's not a lecture. I'm hoping that those moments feel earned and feel important.
So you've clearly done a lot of thinking about this.
Yeah.
Have you maybe started a video yet? When can we expect a video?
Well, the first thing I did, I committed to not doing anything for a month. And I did that. I successfully did not do anything, which sounds
Well,
weird.
well, explain that a little bit because I think that is kind of interesting because we talked about this maybe I guess it was a month ago, right?
More or less.
You you confessed to me that you wanted to do this, and and we had kind of agreed or discovered or observed that you were in this stage of just obsessing about it, um, similar to what I did with art, where you just kind of absorbed
Yeah.
as much as you possibly could about the subject, right?
Yeah.
So you're just watching tons of YouTube videos, and and like when I first started getting into art, I read every day of James Gurney's daily blog that had gone on for like 6 years at the time.
Hmm.
I literally just read through every single day, and then just followed every link that was on there, and like just completely submerged myself into that world. And I think it was probably the best thing I could have done for myself.
Hmm.
So we, not that we decide what you do with your life, but we decided that it would be best for you if you just focused on that, just absorbing as much as possible about YouTube, because it's
Yeah.
what you're trying to do now is completely different than what you were doing before. And I think you want it to be different. But I'm kind of curious how that went. Like, do you feel like you reached a certain point where you stopped absorbing and where it's time to start creating, or do you feel like you're still learning an enormous amount just by watching without doing?
That's a that's an amazing and somewhat piercing question. I think that if this works and I get to the point where I'm able to put something out that I feel really good about and I'm satisfied, and ideally it gets some viewership, then I will say, yeah, this strategy was amazing. This is exactly what you should do. And if it doesn't, then I will have a completely different narrative for what the past month and this whole process actually look like. But at least for now, I feel very happy that I did that. It wasn't my normal MO. I I think previously I would try and do something immediately. I often would wind up with sort of blinders on, almost intentionally. I remember even at the time, I did have a vision of what I wanted to do, but I decided, okay, I'm going to do this music theory thing. And then any other creator or person that was doing something in the space, it was like I didn't want to watch what they were doing. Because
Yeah.
at the time I said, oh, I just want to think for myself. I don't want to be influenced. But that wasn't actually the reason. It was because I felt somehow threatened, or I didn't want to see someone doing something better than I was or anything like that, because it felt like it was threatening me, I guess. It undercut my confidence and all of that. So I intentionally this time, and I think that I think very differently now than before, but I wanted to absorb everything. I wanted to understand why the YouTubers that I don't like are still successful and understand what's so amazing about them, even if it's not something that I value that much. I want to see the full landscape. I want to understand. I want to see counterexamples for everything I get latched onto. I think, oh, the secret to doing it is to do X, do Y, do things this way, and then find all the examples of somebody else doing something totally different and have to accept that and try and digest that and not form up some happy little model that I keep for myself and never really try and engage with the things that threaten the model. I did not just watch YouTube. I certainly watched a lot, but I read books on acting. I have started trying to understand more about writing and that whole world. I think there's actually a lot. I think that almost everything fits into being a YouTuber. There's hardly any skill that isn't relevant there, because it is storytelling, it is acting, it is it is creation, it is filming, it is cinematography, it is sound design, it is everything. So that is sort of terrifying in a way to really reflect on that and think, wow, if you really wanted to be amazing, you have to be good at almost everything. But it also has made me so interested in everything now, because everything feels valuable. Just
Mm-hmm.
I will be sitting somewhere in a lobby of some random building and think part of what I want to do is build things and show them to people. And what makes that work is engineering and design. And so I will look around and try and understand what things around me are well designed and why do I think they're well designed. And I can sit for half an hour. I genuinely spent at least half an hour, probably more, staring at a bicycle, trying to understand why it was such a gorgeous bicycle, because it felt so valuable to me, because it's design, it's aesthetics, it's creating something that people find interesting. It's made me feel really good. Now, as you have kind of pointed out, this is a little bit of the comfortable zone where I don't have to deal with agonizing process of crafting a vision and then actually doing something and seeing how far apart those are. I have done that some, and it is painful, but
Yeah.
I know that
Well,
that's there.
well, there's a couple different aspects of this that I think are going to be very interesting to watch. One is, yes, the disparity or the giant shift from dreaming and fantasizing about being this amazing YouTuber. And it doesn't matter how much you study and how hard you
Right.
study. When you make your first video, it's going to hurt because you can't encompass all of these things you've learned and fantasized about
Right.
within a single video. And uh, so it's going to hurt and it's going to feel incomplete and you're going to feel let down in some way.
Yeah.
If you are anything like me, you're going to feel some pain, which you know this
Mhm.
because you've done things before. But what is interesting to me now is that we get to watch this and it, I think we've learned so much over the last years talking about this kind of thing. And since you were doing YouTube stuff and
Yeah.
how you kind of ran that into the ground. Sorry. Uh, but like the amount of pain that caused you, I think we have the tools to get you through this time. And it's going to be different. And as those same problems, same anxieties, same fears come up, I think we can deal with every single one of them.
Uh, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and you said something really corny that I have had in my head ever since because it's ended up being very meaningful. You said, "Hey, we've been doing this podcast for years. We have collected many weapons. You can do this time." And that really stuck
No,
with me. I keep thinking
it
about
was
that.
worse.
What?
It was worse than that. I said, we've constructed many weapons. Now it's time to go to war.
Okay, all right.
That's what I
Well,
said.
I kind of cut the cheese a little bit there, or I don't know what expression to use. I tried to make it less cheesy. But no, you're right. It has to be full on. It's time to go to war. I seriously though, I having done the podcast for many years has really changed my thinking. And that has been part of this month. It hasn't just been, oh, I got to learn about YouTube and all of camera work, stuff like that. It's been, let me think through one, my core values carefully. What do I even want to bring? What is the point of doing this? I reflect on the fact that I'm 40 now, and this will maybe I'll crash and burn and get to try again when I'm 60, but it's unlikely. At some point, you have to start thinking, hey, what do I care about? Never mind just get some viewers and try and have a successful YouTube. What do I want to say? That's been a big thing. But I've also been thinking a lot about myself and my mindset and the kinds of things that have tripped me up in the past or caused me to crash and burn in the past. And the one thing that has bubbled up and it has become it is not just rule number one, it appears several times in my list of rules because it is even more important than just rule number one, is that it has to be fun. And that sounds stupid, but I continuously think about that. It has to. It is not optional because if it isn't, I know that I will run out of gas and it will fall apart. And it's not just that. It's not just a survival mechanism of me needing to have fun. Everyone that I watch and like is having fun. That I'm sure they're not always having fun, but that's what comes through. And that seems to be of all the research I've done and everyone I've looked at, that is one of the most critical things. Is this person enjoying themselves? Because that leaks through and that makes me enjoy myself. Are they not? Do they feel like they're delivering a lecture, a presentation? They have to do this? I don't care that much. So that's been a huge part of it is that type of thinking of setting up the way I want to approach it.
So I've been mentoring someone with art,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the first things that we did was look at their collection of art, and so you look at this, wide range of art, different pieces, different styles, different. They were struggling to find their style, their cohesive style, and what worked for them. So you get this kind of portfolio sort of feels like a student portfolio where the pieces are all over the place. So my job is to kind of try to help them weave it together into something that feels good every single time.
Hmm.
And you build this cohesive look to your own work. And a lot of that is discovering the little invisible pieces where you were having fun. Like, oh, you spent way more time on this tree in the background. What do you think? Like, why did you
Yeah.
do that? Why
Yeah.
didn't you, you know, you spent 10 minutes on the figure in front, on the main character, but you spent 3 hours on the tree in the background. And they're like, well, I don't know, because, you know, whatever. But
Hmm.
that's one of the answers. It's, oh, you really love trees. There's something about it that you are just naturally drawn to.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go through that with every single piece and you find the love in each piece and you just start highlighting those things and you bring them forward in each future piece. So
Hmm.
every time you see a little bit of that love coming through, you bring it out and you encourage that, and then you start to develop this very cohesive style just based off of natural inclinations,
Hmm.
and they're almost always invisible to the person that does them. But the reason I bring it up is because at the beginning, whenever you're talking to someone who is trying to find their style or whatever, they give you these really big philosophical things. They always talk about, well, I want to be the type of artist who can do
Hmm.
giant epic oil paintings of dragons and also do this thing and be a character artist, and I want my legacy to say this, this, and this. And then you look at their art and it's like a couple still lifes or whatever, because they spend so much time thinking about the big picture, the philosophical details,
Hmm.
that when it comes to actually making something, they're filled with all of this pressure and
Yeah.
so much fear that they're not going to hit these giant goals that they have. So when you started talking about what you want to stand for, what are your values
Hmm.
and what's important to you, like as a big picture, it's a little bit of a red flag. But you saved yourself because you tied it in with how you want to make it fun. And very quickly, you will realize, and what me and our other brother have to constantly realize in our YouTube videos, is that it has to fit into your day to day.
Hmm.
And so even though it's good to think about the big philosophical stuff to check your compass that you're heading in the right direction, it's much, much, much more important.
Hmm.
And it just absolutely necessary that you work it into your day, like at the right time of day, that you're able to have fun with it. And it's, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so you can think right now, and you said this earlier, that you want to make videos where you're not doing recaps and you want it all be in the moment and you want to have these struggles, you want to do these storytelling things. That's wonderful. Try it out. Do that.
Hmm.
But it might end up that the reason you're drawn to that idea is because it's different than what you would naturally do. And so you think it's cooler
Yeah.
than what you would normally do. But 2 years later, you're going to find out that actually the way you really work better is doing recaps
Hmm.
or doing tutorial type stuff or whatever. Like you don't know yet,
Yeah.
and you can't. And I think you're aware of all of this. I'm just going to mirror it back to you and remind myself of it as I preach it. But
Yeah. Eh,
uh,
and
yeah, it's
you're totally right. And I understand that I'm going to imagine something and then I will go to do it and it will not be what I was imagining. And that is actually how the first YouTube channel went. I actually did not start with music theory lessons. I started with just playing music. I would learn some piece and I would perform it, and I got minor viewership, nothing very exciting at all. And it was fine, but I kept seeing people who would perform something, and at least in my mind, I thought, I think I can do it as well as they can. And why do they get a bunch of viewership and I don't? And I never really, at the time, did not understand why, and I got kind of frustrated with that. And then at some point, I decided, wait a second, I'm going to do a music lessons. But I did try something else, and it was my second idea that stuck and got a lot of traction. And it was the fact that that first video did so well that led me into this career of doing it. So I totally understand that. But I also want to be wary of audience capture, which seems to happen a lot, where somebody hits something that works well and then they wind up being completely pigeonholed where they can't escape.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm just trying to make sure that I at least know what my values are and what I want to say is up front so that I can literally go back to the list and say, am I saying this? Am I doing this because I care about this? And views are important and engagement is important if you want to be successful, but I want to really remain attached to those things. And I absolutely, again, rule numbers 5 and 10 are have fun. And so if it steers me in a direction where I'm not having fun, that's the death mark, because it can't last. I'm not the type of person who will sit there and just grind it out if I'm not enjoying it in some way. So
Well, I totally agree with all of that. And
yeah.
yeah, I've seen some channels where they start a YouTube channel about a subject. Let's say they want to be an artist. And then, they've posted a bunch of videos on art that haven't done well, or they've done a little bit well.
Mhm.
And then they quit their job to pursue their art career and they make a video on that. They say, I quit my job to pursue an art career or
Mhm.
whatever. And that does super well. And then every video after that, even 3, 5 years in,
Right.
every single one is titled, I quit my job to do this. I quit my job. This is why you
Yeah.
should quit your job. They're all like, once you get blessed in a certain area, a
Mhm.
lot of people make the mistake of just, I'll just go down this road.
Right.
Anyway, I could geek out about
Yeah, yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of stuff for a long time. But
Yeah.
yeah.
There's something else. So in this process, there was one thing that it's been on my mind for a while. It's just one of those things you hear and it sticks with you. But in this case, especially in the experimenting phase where I'm trying to write something and then film it, especially something that's funny or lighthearted or snarky, whatever, actually trying to put that on camera. This line has stuck with me very intently here. It's rule number 2. There was this StarCraft commentator years back. He actually passed away, but he was hilarious. He was genuinely at times just would make everyone around him cry from laughter. He was known for being this very funny guy. And not all of his jokes would land. Sometimes he would throw something out there and it would be crickets, and other times it would just hit you and you would metaphorically fall off your chair. And somebody asked him in an interview once. They said, "How are you this funny? What is your secret?" And he said, "You got to be brave." Which I thought was a pretty interesting answer to that. But the way he saw it, to really do something unexpected, you don't know. You got to be brave and you got to be willing to throw it out there and risk everyone staring at you and the crickets. And I keep thinking about that because as I'm playing with this stuff, as I'm writing, as I'm trying to put something on camera, I keep starting to walk it back and think, I don't know. Is that gonna? Let's just make this a little simpler. Let's just keep it, straightforward. We don't need to make that joke. We don't need to do that bit. And I keep wanting to shrink it back down into just something very safe. And I keep thinking about In Control, this StarCraft caster, saying, "You got to be brave, dude. You got to put it out there." And that has embodied more than just the idea of trying to do a joke on camera. It is really the whole thing, in that the people that I like, they're not doing it. They're not playing it safe. They're throwing it out there. And not everything lands. Some of the videos aren't good. Some of the jokes just aren't that funny. But some of them are, and some of them are great. And if you don't make any jokes, then you're never funny. And that's just been in my head a lot too. So I'm trying to hold on to that.
Oh, it's tough. I find because the video that did the absolute best for me was the most vulnerable. Like I was brave
Yeah.
and weird. I'm kind of a weird person, and I put it on camera. And when I'm making videos, I try very hard to just actually I don't have to try that hard, but I'm just isolated.
Mhm.
I'm in my own place making my video. It's just me and the camera, and there's just no outside forces seeing it. So it's
Right.
people, I think, generally view people that show up on camera as like, oh wow, they're social, or
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not. Like, I'm not. I don't share things with people.
I,
I'll share it with the camera, and then when I post it, then it gets weird. But
hmm
anyway, but yeah, it's rewarding and it's terrifying, and you really do have to kind of be brave to put
hmm
your actual self and not edit it all the way out, you know.
Yeah.
And then there have been times actually in that same video where it doesn't land for some people. And you get people that are just like, wow, you're so fucking dramatic. You suck.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah. But then you get the other people are like, wow, thank you so much for being
hmm
honest and being, you know, and so you get that. And yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. And you gotta be okay with both, or you don't read comments. But I when I think about it, I think back to what I was doing the first time around, and there was a lot that I'm very proud of, and I put a lot of effort into it, and I'm not, diminishing that. But the very nature of it was very safe. I wasn't trying to be funny. I wasn't trying to be creative. I was simply focused on delivering a lecture inside of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or longer that was clear and communicated something start to finish and built on prior knowledge and all of that. But it was just that. And that is the kind of thing that you don't have to be that brave. You have to be good at it. It took a lot of thinking, but it wasn't
Yeah, but
as
it wasn't
scary.
about you.
No, I know, I
Yeah, it
know.
wasn't. Yeah, yeah.
But that's what's so scary is that that's not what I want to do this time. I want to do something different, and it's
Yeah,
scarier, much scarier.
definitely. Okay, so let's wrap this up and make this practical. And you got to give us I think you got to give us a deadline or a date to expect our first video, right? Do you think that's the best move?
I knew you were going to ask this, but
And by me asking it, I'm saying, "Hey, when are we getting a video?
yeah,
What is the exact date?"
let me just talk through it briefly. I have just finished my month of reflection and, learning and everything. So I'm only now shifting into, all right, how do we actually make this happen? The I've committed to the first video being a build, a physical build. I'm going to try and replace these headphones because they are messed up. So I'm going to try and build my own pair of headphones. I don't I'm going to ask you this and ask for your advice here. I'm I'm working through it. There is a lot to learn. Just in how do I
Mhm.
deliver lines to a camera in a way that isn't inauthentic and awkward? How do I just bought a tripod gimbal thing so that I can set up the camera, and I don't know how to use it. I almost broke it riding around yesterday because it fell apart. So there's a lot of just learn what the buttons are, learn how to operate the camera, learn what shots look good, learn how to speak on camera. A lot of experimenting and going, nope, that didn't work, or hey, this kind of did work. I'm trying to write the script and write the shot list, and then I go and try and deliver that and realize, wow, this does not work at all. I need to rethink the way this works. And then it's just a lot of figuring out. And a lot of this stuff is something that once I've learned it, I don't need to relearn it for video number two. So my approach so far has been to try and keep it fun, just do stuff and not put a ton of pressure on myself because it's making it easier to just try it and then try again and get to the point where I'm thinking, yeah, this is cool, this is fun. So I've been keeping the timeline pretty light and it's felt good, but I acknowledge that there's obviously the downside where I could just say, no, 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 this doesn't feel good yet, and then I never get it done. So I don't know.
Well, the YouTube video will be a story about you completing the fix on the headphones, right?
This will be me designing and building my own pair from nothing,
Okay.
which is a hard
Yes,
thing to do,
sorry.
I believe. So that the project itself could take a while.
Okay, you're building this YouTube video off of a project, right?
Yes.
Okay, projects typically need some sort of time frame, right? You don't plan on working on this project for the next 10 years, right?
Correct.
Do you see yourself working on it a year from now?
No.
Okay, so 6 months from now?
Ballpark would be 1 seems ambitious, 3 seems like it's dragging. Somewhere in there.
Okay, so it'll probably be 3 months.
Okay.
Judging off of you, me, and our other brother, this is just how it works. You shoot for some number that seems reasonable and you end up 3 times that amount. So let's
Sure.
say 3 months, dead cutoff,
Okay.
right? So you must finish this. What the hell is it? July, August, September, October. Okay, by October 5th, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Make sure that's right. Okay, October 5th.
Yeah.
The project must be completed. Not the YouTube video, the project.
Okay. I hope that it doesn't take that long. I would like to try and make it shorter, but I like having a pretty generous, hard deadline. If it's
August 5th. Finish it by August 5th.
1 month,
This is July 5th. June, July, August. What the? Okay, make it 2 months from now. What is 2 months from now?
September
July,
5th.
August,
September 5th.
September 5th.
Okay.
September 5th.
Yeah.
You must complete the
Okay.
headphones.
I like that.
The project is finished September 5th. I'm writing that down so I don't forget, so I can remember to yell at you.
I will too.
And then, okay, so I did this with my first oil painting.
Yeah.
I did the oil painting for Figure 8. It took me 8 months to do the painting. I wanted it to take like 1 month. It took me 8 months. And then it took me probably another 3 months or more to make the YouTube video.
Wow.
It took me a long time. And that was my first YouTube video off of my first oil painting in forever. So kind of looking at the same thing.
How long did it take for the YouTube video?
I don't totally remember because it was a couple of years ago, but it was a while. It took me a long time to edit that thing down and figure things out.
Okay.
Well, the problem is that if this is your first time making a YouTube video like this, you're going to record so much footage. You're going to, there's going to be a mountain of stuff that you have to figure out, which is why your second video is going to be better than your first, and so on. Your first video will probably suck compared to what you will eventually do.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. I hope that I hope that I get a little bit of a bump from having it was very, very different, but I did YouTube for a long time and I'm hoping that some of that
don't count on it. Don't count on it
Okay.
at all. Seriously, don't count on it.
All right.
Because totally different people, totally new channel.
Yeah.
None of that same stuff transfers. It just won't matter, especially to the algorithm that's going to want to show you whatever. We can geek out about that later, but yeah, don't count on anything. You're starting from ground zero, literally, which is cool. You've started a new game.
Okay.
And just enjoy the fact that you're going from zero. You're starting at zero. It's fun.
Okay. Okay. I'm writing it down.
So,
starting from zero.
After the project, then we can come up with the deadline for the video.
Okay.
But obviously during those 2 months, you're going to be thinking about how that video is going to turn out or what you're going to do for the video
and
while you record everything.
As I said, I'm pretty convinced, at least for the first video or several, that I want to do the you come with me style, not the hey, look, I built this thing, here's my past tense retrospective. Building it will include a lot of filming, and I've written a lot of script already. Some of it I got to do the build to figure out what's going to fit, but I want to try and record those things throughout the process and get it as close to an actual chronology of the project as I can. I mean, I might go back and film something that's actually after the fact, but I want to minimize that. So that means that it's not going to be 2 months of pure build and then start filming. It's going to be a lot of filming integrated with the whole thing. So hopefully by the time the project is done, there's not that much left to do YouTube wise.
Well, yeah, I've had not such good luck with that type of video.
Yeah.
and I'm curious to see what you do.
Maybe
And
it's
then
his
maybe
fantasy.
I'll
I
go
don't
back
know.
to that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll go back to that. Because, yeah,
Well, we'll see if it works.
I'm making a video now, and it's not going to be my best video.
Okay.
I did not get enough footage from the show, but I'm making a video on the show anyway. But, all right. Well, I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
And I like that. Committed 2 months timeline for the build. The build must be done. I must have a thing that I can wear on the podcast that works, right? And that has to be done. And we can evaluate the YouTube deadline, but hopefully it's not too much later.
Well, freak out about the headphones being finished, but not about the YouTube video. And keep that fun. Whatever. All right.
Cool. Thanks for talking me through it. I am not going to say see you next week because that is a cursed sentence. So thanks everybody for hanging out. Let us know what you're up to. Talk to us on podcast platforms, YouTube. You can hang out in our Discord. If you do sign up for Discord, say, I'm not a bot, because we've had so many bots showing up. So if you get banned right away, it's nothing personal. Thanks again. We'll see you sometime.